Welcome back to another episode of TNF Bites. Today's topic is going to be, is console gaming dead? Bit of a broad stroke opinion there, but we do have a few things to chat about, and I've been joined by Saunders. Saunders, how are you?
I'm doing very well, and I'm going to throw out a spoiler alert right at the start of this video. Like me in this heat, it's not dead, but it's on its legs, it's on its last legs. I've got a can of Monster, and I'm ready to go.
That's, as always having the caffeine on hand. So yeah, this is a video that's kind of spawned from our tier list video around consoles and where we ranked them, and I think you found the same when we were going through it, and that there was some lower rankings given for certainly 2 gens ago, but some really kind of shoddy rankings given for this last generation. So I guess to kind of quantify if gaming is dead, in your head, what in your head made gaming console wise great?
You and I are both very heavy on nostalgia, right? As we've discussed at length in this channel. We did the tier list for video games. We've done a console tier list. The big vlog that is coming out as well. I spent 15 hours running around Birmingham trying to hit as many retro gaming shops as I could. It was all about what happened back in the day. And a big part of that was going into places like the Game Centre and the Forum in Irvine, RIP, and other game shops, trading in your old games, picking up second hand, picking up classics, swapping games with your friends. Like that, borrowing a game to play it to completion. Sitting in your bedroom with two controllers plugged into a console and sitting playing FIFA or PES for hours and hours and hours on end. Before microtransactions, which is something that we can maybe get into, and then not to jump way ahead, but I just feel we're losing that.
Yeah,
and that's what we'll say just now.
Yeah, I think that's probably a reasonable assessment to have, is that you're always going to have those kind of nostalgic reminiscences of the past that is going to then sort of contextualize your views on a lot of things. And obviously, we grow up, life moves on. You're always trying to, like, it's almost like chasing the dragon. You're like trying to like go after that high again, and maybe there's that element of these consoles just don't have it. The microtransactions one's a good bit to touch on, is that, I don't know about you, but it feels like to me some of the magic that was once there sort of started to go downhill once they brought out horse armor for Elder Scrolls Oblivion. That was probably the sort of dividing line where everything before this was great, and then afterwards started to kind of nosedive. What was the sort of first moment that you saw that made you think, oh, have we taken this too far here?
See, honestly, it was back in the days of getting early access to 2K games. As a huge basketball fan, a huge gamer, and especially playing 2K, you just pay to win on day one. Folk from £100, $100 plus on VC, and rotting up with 90 pluses in the park or in the neighbourhood on day one. It's just not fun. Playing FIFA on day one, and somebody's had early access to the game, and they've fired the whole other one into it, and they've got, a full team of, we'll say, specials or rare cards, versus the old days of starting with a full bronze team, and it taking you weeks of actually just playing the game.
Yeah, like a proper grind.
But no, it didn't feel like a grind, because it was just fun to play the game. Whereas now it's grinding challenges and grinding SPCs, and I'm like, that's just crap. That's just not fun. It's not gaming. Where and then you go to like particularly the Xbox 360 PS3 generation. Well, this console's more powerful. This console's more faster. Who gives a fuck? Like, who cares? Like, and I'm sitting here at my top monitor with the tech specs up, of some of the newer consoles because I'm ready to start ranting about this. But who actually cares? Is it fun or is it not fun? Like, the Nintendo Wii was not the fastest console, but we all love playing Wii Sports, even though it's a bit of a mid console outside that. You guys have loved playing games on the Switch, as somebody who never had the Switch. It's as if Nintendo realised what it should have been all along, which is making handheld gaming better. Because that's what I remember this about. So that's, for me, that's when I lost. That is when I stepped away from gaming almost completely for a number of years. Was just, I can't be bothered with Ultimate Team 2K and just having to spend money to make the game enjoyable.
Yeah, especially when, you go out and you make that purchase of 40 quid, 50 quid, 60 quid, 70 quid now. You're making that initial outlay and you almost feel like you're pressurising to spending however much. It's different if the game's free. But no, I think you're right. I think that's...
But then you've just touched on what takes us into almost point number 2, if we move on from microtransactions. We're dropping 60, 70, 80 pound in a game, and immediately we've got a massive day one patch, then you've got a week 1 patch. These games should be coming out perfect, and we discussed this in the GTA delay, that we are pretty much expecting a perfect game. Yes. I think it will be, because it's Rockstar. But when did it become acceptable to charge people that type of money for a half-assed product?
It kind of ties in, at least in my mind, it ties into the first point that we kind of made there, where in effect one of the things that is coming down to what we think's not destroyed gaming, because that's too much, but impacting it is essentially capitalism. Because how a lot of these studios work, I love how a lot of these studios work these days, as these developers are working up to the day before release, because they know that they can put out these big day one patches, and that people know that the discs or the carts that they're buying do not have a fully fledged, fully functioning experience. So everyone now accepts, I need to go download this. So then therefore they can squeeze staff members. You will work right up until the deadline. And it ends up, it feeds into each other, where you just get this really rubbish setup for both sides. Like, as someone who does not have good internet, it is not nice going to get a game and you chuck it in the trade day one and it's got one of those 20, 30 gig ones, and you're like, well, that's a couple of hours of my life gone. I need to now go do something else. It's frustrating, which is something that looks like is going to be even more of a problem, and probably leads into one of the things that we want to touch on, is the Switch 2, where it seems like the carts don't have games on them at all. I presume you're not as thrilled about that.
I was very, very close to buying a Switch about 5-6 weeks ago, as you know. And as part of this return to gaming and collecting. I say return to gaming because we've gamed a lot in the last couple of years, particularly Call of Duty. But a return to actually just playing games and collecting games. And one of the things that obviously I want to collect is recollect the Pokemon games that I either had and sold or didn't have first time round. And obviously that was going to lead me into Switch eventually. And when we were having this conversation, sort of agreed that, well, actually, we're just waiting the Switch 2 because it's going to be backwards compatible anyway, and it saves me buying a console twice. They announce it, and I look at the specs, and yes, that stuff annoys me, because why would I go and buy carts if there's nothing actually on the carts, essentially? But it's not getting a OLED screen, so it's immediately a step back, whilst also building in your mid-product cycle upgrade that they've already done. They did it with the first Switch, with the OLED Switch.
You can pretty much guarantee that's coming out Christmas 2027.
They're selling the Switch 2 webcam for 50 quid, and it's a 480p webcam. Whereas I'm sitting there with a 1080p webcam that I paid 30 for, that's branded. So unbranded on Temu or these types of sites, you're probably talking 3 or 4 quid.
Odd. So it's a very odd decision, that.
I just... it's so disappointing. I just don't understand it. I do not understand why you would essentially take the piss out of your consumer base. That's what it feels like.
I think it's something that Nintendo have had some issues with particularly this cycle. I think where you see that the prices of the first party games have not fell the way that they will with Sony and Xbox. those things will come down with age.
Yeah.
You will still have to pay £40+ for Animal Crossing that came out towards the beginning of the Switch's life cycle. It's not ideal.
Am I right in saying that the Switch 2 launch, not the actual launch of the console, but the launch of this is coming in a few months' time?
A few weeks now.
The only launch title that was announced at that time was Mario Kart.
I believe so. That is the only thing that I certainly know of in terms of a big hitter that comes out.
Is that enough? Is that enough for a console at that price? Because Mario Kart's existed for years. How much an upgrade can it be over the last Mario Kart when you've downgraded your console? Or at least your output of your console?
I would say
is that enough?
That it's a very good looking game, and I think it will be very good, but I would agree that you tend to need at least 2 or 3 on day one, because it seems like they are mostly pushing all these Switch games are getting switched to upgrades for free, which is great, fantastic, but I would want more, which is probably another thing that is a bit of a concern, is that Nintendo seem to think that, well, we don't necessarily need all of these things because people will buy it, and, well, judging by some of the queues I've seen when trying to get a hold of a Switch 2 for my wife, they are correct. It's very difficult to get a hold of one, so clearly the consumer isn't too fussed, which is an issue as well, I think. I think that people should want more.
I mean, I'm certainly happy to wait. I'm not in a rush for one, which is a shame. Don't get me wrong, if somehow they decided that Gen 10 Pokemon was dropping, I would probably go and join the queue. It's maybe enough for me to say, right, okay, fine. Until that point, I'll just play the waiting game. I might even just wait till the Switch 2 comes out, because you can pick up a Switch or a Switch Lite for sort of $150 at the moment. That's going to nudge down towards £100.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
Second hand. So I'm fine if I pay that and have to buy a Switch 2 later on. So yeah, this is what prompted this conversation, because I had this conversation with you a few weeks ago in Discord, and then this sort of spiraled, didn't it? When for some strange reason, and we can try and speculate, Sony and Microsoft at the same time just went, "Fuck you to gamers! Here's a price rise for the consoles." Is it?
So obviously,
with 18 months to 2 years left in the life cycle.
Yeah, obviously there's some context around political situations the other side of the pond that can probably give some hints towards it, but I am like you, where it's not immediately obvious to me that that's the only reason. It's tricky to tell if they use that as a reason to jump on it.
Yes.
But I don't know. What do you think?
So my confusion arises from 2 perspectives. One is these consoles dropped during COVID when prices spiked anyway. If anything, Microsoft and Sony both should have benefited from a period of, we've set the price here because of the price of things during COVID. These prices are now here. They should have had a period of time where the profit margins were up. I don't know if they lost money early on and they expected to recover it. That's obviously a bit of speculation.
I believe that for the PlayStation, when the PS5 first came out, I think the rumours in the industry was it's a $40 loss per unit.
Yes,
I think was the chat.
So it's maybe it's been harsh, but that's their fault for deciding to make a loss. Xbox obviously has Game Pass, which I think is phenomenal, which we can touch on again every second, because that's probably another reason why we're having this conversation. If you're asking me why these price rises come in, I have one suggestion and one suggestion only, and it's the only reason I own an Xbox Series X. If you don't have a console and you want to play GTA 6 on day of release, you will have to buy one. Or
this is true.
Wait a year. Is that game such a market reset that the consoles can up their prices? And I think the answer is probably yes.
It makes you have to think about it, because of the amount of publishers that scheduled their releases this year and into next year pre-delay. Certainly, I don't know what they've done post-delay, but there were games being moved back and forward to sort of almost give Rockstar like a 3-week window where nothing was coming out around it, because everyone knows that's where the money is. That's where the smart money is going. So it does make you
I mean,
think that could be a possible reason or a factor.
I
Sort of
mean,
thing.
from a market point of view, I can't remember if it was GTA 5 or 4, but I'm pretty sure one of the Marvel films get moved away
Yeah,
from the GTA release,
I
which
think
should show
you're
you
right.
how impactful Grand Theft Auto games are on
Media as a
the,
whole.
the entertainment media. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. It's maybe a bit of a black and white response to what is a grey area that we're having this conversation for, but
Yeah.
certainly from what I'm reading, there's also publishers who have delayed games in the hope that GTA resets the price point
And then they
to
can.
potentially $100, £100, and they can say, right, maybe we can't do that, but we can do 85,
Mm-hmm.
and we can be like, we're cheaper. So it's the one thing that stands out to me. It just all happened in such a quick time frame. The delays, the price rises. The price rises came first, but it just, I don't know. Maybe I'm too
Cynical.
cynical for stuff like this, but I mean, it's the only reason I want a Series X at the moment is because I was waiting for Grand Theft Auto 6,
Mm-hmm.
and I would have paid the price
Mm-hmm.
in a year's time. So maybe, and does that mean it's dying? No, but when you look at Game Pass, which obviously I've briefly mentioned, I do pay for Game Pass Ultimate. I pretty much pay for it because Call of Duty covers the cost of it itself almost these days.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't touch the Series X at all. I barely play it. I have no reason to play it. Everything's here on my setup. I get to use my big headphones. I get to use the mic, my fast response monitors rather than tell it, and I can plug the Xbox in, but it's not the same. So that's what I'm saying. Is it dead? No. Is it dying? Well, Nintendo have actually don't give a shit about the Switch 2. The Xbox Series X is good, but to me, the Xbox product is now Game Pass, or it's very close to being Game Pass.
Yes.
And that leaves you with Sony as your PlayStation as your last remaining
Sort of bastion
big
of gaming.
bastion of console gaming. So, I mean, I'm still running my PC rigs now. It's a 2020 build. It's a 2060 with decent monitors. It still runs things as well as the Xbox does. Somebody will probably tell us in the comments that I'm talking crap and that this is the difference, but it's still running things. Is the only thing saving the Xbox and the PlayStation the fact that to build a comparable PC, you probably double the price.
Potentially, it could be something
Is
along those
is
lines.
is that the only thing holding them there?
Mm-hmm. It could be. I mean, it's certainly something that I'd like to see some chat about in the comments. So comment down below what you guys think about that kind of stuff, because that kind of chatter always kind of interests me. And we'll kind of finish up on what I think we've kind of briefly spoke about there is a grey area with gaming, and it probably is Game Pass. I am like you. I pay for it purely because it's the first party games for me. There is normally enough on the first party that gets it for me. I've not purchased the Oblivion remaster because, at least to my knowledge, they've not actually brought out a physical one. So a couple of months of Game Pass is the equivalency of that. I can deal with that. I can pay for that. But you do get these weird instances where actual game sales are now down across these titles because people know you can go sub to Microsoft's Game Pass and that's how they make their money. And a lot of these companies still use sales as a metric to drive expansions, DLCs, sequels. There will also come a point where they will hit a certain level of market share where Game Pass becomes whatever price you want. So I guess my question to you is, has it got to that point where it started ruining gaming, or is it still at this point where Game Pass is a net positive for the space we're in?
Don't know, and that's a simple answer. I don't. I've found myself scrolling Game Pass and being like, "There's nothing here I actually want to play."
Mm-hmm.
Call of Duty's ruined. It's just not fun anymore. We all tried it this year and just went, this is just crap.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if they said, here's an MW an MW2 and an MW3 remaster, we'd all jump on it immediately.
Oh yeah, straight away.
Even if it was just multiplayer. So I think there's still opportunities in Game Pass, but like we said, if it started to go to £20-25 a month, I would be sitting there going,
"There's a line here that's maybe crossed it."
I'll pay for it for a couple of months of the year. But actually, if I'm only playing Call of Duty, I'd rather just pay the £90 for the whatever version I'm buying and have the game. There is alternatives out there. Like we did discuss in one of the videos, or you discussed in your collector's video, the Xbox 360 store getting done.
Yes.
We've not even touched on the fact that if you store all your games digitally, and I'm sure it's in the terms and conditions, I'm sure it's in the terms and conditions in a lot of places where you, like Prime, where you download and buy films on Amazon, that if they lose the rights to that film, you lose the rights to watch it, which is just absolutely ridiculous.
There is only one storefront, to my knowledge, where that's not the case, and it's in their EULA, which is Steam, that they have said that if Steam go bankrupt, you get all the licenses, you, the users, will be given it. But obviously, Steam are a multi-billion-dollar company, so
and that could change at any time.
And that could also retroactively
change.
There
is actually a storefront called, I don't know if it's GOG.
Yeah, GOG. They're the only ones where you will actually gain licenses.
They give you the files. So for anybody that is interested with your Amazon Prime on Twitch, they have I don't download them yet. I've got access to them on my GOG drive. There is about 10 plus games available for free through Twitch Prime on GOG. Nice. So it's worth checking out. At least there you own the files. You have them on your computer. So if they ever did go down, you still have that game. So there are alternatives out there to the big guns. And obviously as an Xbox gamer predominantly over the last 15, 20 years, I don't know if Sony has an equivalent. Is there a world in which
there is an equivalent?
PlayStation has access to Game Pass?
There is their version of PSN. They have like a tiered system for things like that, where it's the same notion, where it's first party stuff mostly and some select stuff. It's not to the level of Game Pass, and I suspect they don't want it to be the same level as Game Pass, but there is that alternative out there. Price points they're not crazy different, really. The benefits are kind of the same. But yeah, I don't think that's quite their core model. At least not yet. That might change moving forward.
And I mean, I don't know what and I feel this is the part of the video where we really need to decide, we've made some points and discussed it and get some feedback for the viewers, or we just rant for the next hour and probably should have made this a live. But I watch a lot of YouTube to the point where I don't really consume TV, because the idea of committing to a Monday night and 9 o'clock in the Game of Thrones days just isn't for me anymore. I watch YouTube. I can jump between my telly, the desktop, my phone, wherever I am. I pay for YouTube Prime because honestly the adverts are getting ridiculous, which means I consume a reasonable amount of gaming content. Right now I'm watching a lot more tech-based stuff to try and help support the channel, but watch a reasonable amount of gaming. I don't watch a lot of the console-based streamers and YouTubers that I probably did even 18 months ago. I don't know if it's the games that have ruined it, but like there's been FIFA/FC creators that have certain series that I've always enjoyed watching. I haven't watched them this year at all because of that love for that game. Even when I felt love for the game, I still had a love for the content that was made by it. Now I think that's gone.
Yeah,
I don't watch any sim racing anymore. I used to love watching like F1 esports and F1 sim racing stuff and things like the creators. Just all they do is complain about the games that they're playing,
which is
that's what I'm saying. Like, so that's what I'm saying. They're complaining about the games they're playing, and I get that it can be frustrating. But maybe it's a bit pop kettle because we have ambitions for this channel. But it's like, what happened to it just being fun? It goes back to the very first point I made. What happened to this just being fun? It was fun. You made content for fun. You were lucky enough to be able to make a career and money to living from it. And I get that you've probably got mortgages and cars and loans, whatever else, riding on whatever content you put out. But if you're moaning about a game, why would I want to watch you play the game? Yeah. And it's a shame because I thoroughly enjoyed content like that for a long time. And if you're not enjoying making the content, how am I supposed to enjoy watching it? And that's why, and I'm not saying these are all console gamers, but you know, I'm thinking in particular the FIFA series were all obviously in console.
Mm.
It's going to die because these people will have to pivot to something else if they see their viewership drop and their engagement drop. They have to pivot. I mean, probably the biggest gaming series in the UK for the last 18 months, 2 years has been The Sidemen playing Among Us.
Yeah.
Which is I think like a £6 game when it was launched.
Yeah.
I think I'm sure that's all I paid for it on Steam.
It's very inexpensive, very accessible.
And you're trying to convince me that an £80 game is better off. Like, people are playing GTA 5 RP now, which GTA 5 been available on PC for free for a long time through Epic or
Game Pass, those things.
Game Pass and stuff like that. Yes, you need to your mods, but in fair play to Rockstar for allowing the mods to become part of, like, not banning the mods, you know, embracing the mods.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't need. That's now taking what was always a console game away from consoles.
Yeah, branched out a bit.
And it's obviously for the mods side, I think it's PC based, so that it all ties into that same thing. Like, it's meant to be fun.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I just think that's gone, completely gone.
Yeah, like, there is that concern, isn't it, that maybe attitudes have changed and you could spend hours talking about how negative feedback looks on social media, then feed into all different walks of life and your perceptions and stuff. But it's, yeah, I do think you're onto something. There's a couple of guys I used to watch that I don't watch anymore for similar kind of reasons.
And I'm not going to name the content. I don't want to be accused of just name dropping content creators.
Yeah, we don't need to do that
to try and bait, because that's pointless. It's probably obvious who we're talking about anyway. But don't want to bait that type of reaction in the comments. And I do feel a little bit like old man yells at cloud here. But I also know that when the new consoles drop, if we're still doing this, I will be buying them. But I will also be quick, because I didn't buy the Xbox Series X when it released.
Yeah.
For this very reason. I was like, well, I can do what I want to do on my PC.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I need to buy the console? And I'll be doing the same conversation next time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what led me into the Switch. I'm like, well, the Switch is probably the only thing that's got a USB away from the PC, because the Xbox and PlayStation games tend to appear on.
They do tend to, yeah. There is that kind of crossover
PC anyway,
almost all the time.
As much as I do feel like an old man ranting here, I'll like, no one. This might be a really bold statement, but no one fell in love with gaming on a PC. I don't think everybody everybody had a console first, a Mega Drive, a PS1, a SNES, you know, an Atari. If you want to go a generation further, like, that's we played it in a telly, we sat there with our friends and we played games. And now we sit down with our friends and open packs or spend money.
So really, to save the communities across the world, console gaming needs to survive. So people need to take heed of these warnings that we're passing through here. But yeah, comment down below what you guys think about the state of it. I think that, yes, we've raised some good points, and it might have sounded a little bit negative, but I think it's all coming from a place of we want this to be better. You know, we want this to be the space that it has been before and can be. And, you know, there's plenty of good things. You know, consoles, there are always SKUs that are out there at good prices. Some of them are very accessible. Mobile gaming's everywhere and people can just pick up a phone. There's loads of good things to say, but I think the things that we've outlined here are actual genuine concerns that it's not going to be tomorrow, it's not going to be next year, but you're talking next decade. There could be some major changes, and I don't think we're ready for them.
Will we see a PS7? Will we see a PS8? You never know.
You know we'll see a 6, but past that, it's anyone's guess. But I've definitely enjoyed that conversation. Thank you for joining me for that one, Saunders. Much appreciated to have your time.
My rants. But it's a conversation that we've been having privately, and we probably held back on that conversation because we knew there was a video idea there. So, as you've said, get involved in the conversation, because we'll probably do a follow-up to this in a few months' time and see, or maybe a year's time, and see
what's
if we're any further along. If we're any further along on that slow descend into the abyss.
Yeah, sadness. But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you guys in the next one. From all of us at TNF, happy gaming.